A lot of your friends are like fucking crabs. They'll fucking, you're trying to climb out of this hole, whether it's a bad neighborhood, whether it's just a bad area, and they want to pull you back in like a crab. Hey, my name's Tommy Mello. I own a company called A1 Garage Door Service. This year we're budgeting $150 million. And today I'm going to be watching videos of gurus and give you what I think is bullshit or not. So let's go ahead and watch some of these videos.
7 things poor people do that the rich don't. Number 1, poor people watch TV and rich people read books. How many hours you spend in front of the TV, and when was the last fucking time you read a book? How many books do you read per year?
Yeah, you know, book reading is, I think leaders are readers. I definitely agree that everybody has a fair balance of social media, TV. I think you want to know what's going on. I actually watch TV and watch the commercials because we shoot a lot of commercials.
You may be the best floor cleaner on the planet ever, but what value do you bring to McDonald's? Rich people, we get paid based on results, not timing.
You know, most of the people here at A1 Garage Door Service are performance paid. I'm not a big fan of hourly. There's no really motivation to get things done. Back in the day when we'd give people a raise after a year, we'd have a one-on-one with them. And what we'd say is, I got so sick of giving people raises based on tenure. When I got my master's degree, some of the instructors never actually made it in the real world. I hated those teachers. I love teachers that actually went out and they did it and they decided they wanted to teach. They became rich and they said, I want to give back to students. The other guys that had tenure had no idea what it was like to make it in the real world. You've heard the expression, when you don't make it in the real world, you teach, and those were the assholes.
Number 3, poor people, they blame others for their misfortunes. Rich people, we take responsibility for our own failures. You see, for poor people, it's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah, you know, we talk about this stuff. These are pretty common things. I mean, he's kind of stating the obvious, I guess. A lot of people say, it's easy for you to say, you got lucky, I'll start tomorrow. Everybody complains. There's a victim mentality. I always tell a story about how my mom and dad got a divorce. I got a job when I was 12. My mom worked 3 jobs. And I always kind of pour that into a good thing. Like, my mom taught me how hard she worked. She taught me what love was about. My dad I got 2 Christmases after that instead of 1. I kind of turned lemons into lemonade. I think it's important to do that. And a lot of poor people, the poor people mentality, they say, I can never do that, I can never be that. And this guy, if I made videos like this, I'd say, it's pretty common shit.
It's the government. It's my boss. It's my job. It's my
coronavirus.
City, it's my neighbor.
This,
it's
that,
my
it's
friends. It's always
interest rate.
else.
It's gas
They're
prices.
their own
It's bullshit.
fault.
Yeah.
Number 4, poor people focus on saving and rich people focus on investing. You know what? Don't drink that Starbucks coffee in the morning.
You know, this one I don't know if I agree with. Obviously, it's important to save money. Dave Ramsey talks about it. A lot of people don't think Dave Ramsey is the real deal. He is the real deal. The difference between me and Dave Ramsey, for example, I use other people's money. Leverage is a good thing. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. These are the facts. If you don't like it, then sorry, you're a bitch.
Try to save a few dollars and here and there. Well, don't fly first class, fly economy.
You know, I started flying first class and I don't think you could ever go back to economy. I've got a rule. If I'm flying less than 2 hours, I'll go Southwest. But if it's a long trip, it's almost impossible to get work done on a Southwest flight.
Well, here's the thing. A penny saved is still a fucking penny.
Well, here's the biggest issue. You know, if you make $40,000 a year and you can't save money, when you make $80,000, you're never going to save money. When you make $200,000, you're never going to save money. There's a thing called Parkinson's Law. They'll use whatever they have available. If they got a big house, they'll use up all the space. It'll become cramped. I mean, you do have to learn how to save. I don't agree with this guy. I don't even have time to watch this fucking long-ass video. I can't stand this any longer. And what money does for you is it brings your personality out bigger. If you're a giver and you don't have a lot of money, you're going to give a lot more. If you're a taker and you got money, you're going to screw a lot of people over. You'll probably be a hedge fund that tries shitty ways of taking over companies. They call it a hostile takeover. There's a lot of people that do that once they make money. You know, I've always said the reason I work so hard is to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. Someone told me no matter how much we do, 500 million, $1 billion in revenue, I'm like a shark. I'll never stop fishing. I'll never stop swimming. So fucking cut that.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's not wrong on a lot of things. He's just boring as hell. Charlie Munger. There's one of my favorite books of all time, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Chet Holmes used to work for Charlie Munger in different magazines. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett are amazing friends. I think he's a very smart guy. but he's old school. He believes that everything should be what it was in like the 50s. I mean, look at him.
And then there are people on the TV, another wonderful place. And they say, I have this book that will teach you how to make 300% a year. And all you have to do is pay for shipping, and I will mail it to you. How likely is it that a person who had suddenly found a way to make 300% a year would be trying to sell books on the internet to you?
You know, you look at the 10X by Grant Cardone and all these things. They're really trying to get people to work harder. But the fact is, the problem that people have is a failure to implement. They can't get started. They never get going. They say, I'm going to start tomorrow. They say, I'm going to go ahead and everything's going to be better next month. I think these books, some of them have a lot of valuable data, but most of them are self-help books, how to get motivated. So he'd say, don't read 10X by Grant Cardone, but he'd probably say, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, I just would like to know what books he would recommend. But once again, he's boring. He's not as fun to watch. Okay, let's watch Grant Cardone here.
I'm broke right now.
Really?
Yeah, we're going all in right now. So
You're buying a big unit, or
I exhaust my reserves, and then we got to go back out and say, okay, let's go again.
Really?
Every surplus penny, twice a year I go broke. Twice a year I'm like, put it all in.
Into real estate?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it's gone.
A lot of people get a phone call from their CPA, and the CPA says, you owe $200,000 this year in taxes. And what does a business owner say? How the hell is that possible? And when you hear these business owners talking to their friends, what's the one thing they say? They say, I put it all back into the company. Why don't you have any money? No cash reserves. You should have enough to make payroll for the next 4 months. Bare minimum, every payroll in the bank plus some. The company should be able to make 20%. 15 to 20% profits. If I'm making 200 grand for my company, after I pay myself the 200 grand, the company should still be making 15 to 20%. At least in the home service industry. It's going back to Parkinson's law where they spend everything they have. You know, Grant Cardone talks about he puts it all in real estate. Well, now he's doing all this stuff in the air conditioning industry. It's like everything he ever said on stage, was it real or did he just evolve? But anybody that needs to go on stage all the time to sell, there's great people that go on stage. You don't hear a lot of this Mr. Walton going on stage. You don't hear about some of these, the biggest, richest, most wealthy people in the world. They're not talking on stage. The stage is a sales. He doesn't go on stage. He goes on stage to sell his Grant Cardone Academy. He goes to get air conditioning companies. He goes there to find partnerships. That's his thing. So roofer recently I sat down with, did a podcast with, he swears up and down the Grant Cardone Academy is like the shit. So I've never been through it. Yes, just like I pay $100,000 to go to the 100 Million Mastermind, which is a great organization. There's only 100 people in there, and they're all very, very good at what they do, and you learn different things. There's a girl named Amanda Tress who went from 2 million to 65 million in 2 years. Crazy things I learned from very, very smart people. You start hanging out with these people, you know, call it lucky, but you're actually, add up the closest 5 people in your life, divide it by 5 of what they make, you're probably within 20% of there. You start reading books, hanging out with better people. Not better people necessarily, but one of the things I always tell my graduating class, I just said 20 people graduate, I said, a lot of your friends are like fucking crabs, where they'll fucking, you're trying to climb out of this hole, whether it's a bad neighborhood, whether it's just a bad area, just a bad relationship, and they want to pull you back in like a crab, like, you know, escaping from a tin can. It's, people are like that, and you got to disassociate yourself. You need to run from those people as fast as possible. Let's see Steve Jobs on recruiting. Steve Jobs was a legend. You know, what's crazy to me is Steve Jobs got kicked out of his own company. The worst thing you could do is get rid of a founder. He went back, I don't know, a dozen years later and made it to the Apple we know today.
The greatest people are self-managing. They don't need to be managed. Once they know what to do, they'll go figure out how to do it. And they don't need to be managed at all. What they need is a common vision. And that's what leadership is. What leadership is having a vision, being able to articulate that so the people around you can...
I've always said there's 8 ways to the top of the mountain. A common vision helps. There's really great people, but you got to get them rolling in the same direction. Delegation is important. There's a difference between delegating and dumping. Al Levy taught me that. And I wish I could just tell somebody, go start a business and make me a lot of money. It's a lot. They need details. They want to know time frames. They want to know what the mission is, why it's important to get done in a certain way. You need to have check-ins along the way. I don't believe you could just say, make the computer go faster in certain facets. But what did he do? Every time they brought it back, the original Macintosh, you know, he said, I needed to load faster. I needed to load faster. Well, they figured out a way to get there, and your people could do that. But I would say the devil's in the details on this.
So I consider the most important job of someone like myself is recruiting.
We agonized over hiring.
People say always be closing, I say always be recruiting. Recruiting is the lifeblood of every company. If you get great people, he's right in a lot of senses. If you get amazing people, they'll take care of you, they'll go above, they'll jump over mountains for you, but you don't go to find great people on the unemployment line. You might get lucky if somebody moves cross state and they're looking for a new job because they're relocating, but very rarely do you find amazing people, unless they're changing an industry. The best place to find people is at their current jobs and recruit them. Think about a baseball recruiter. What do? They go out there and they actually actively recruit the players. They don't wait for them to come to them. Do you think the military doesn't have recruiters? I hope you guys watch more of my videos. This has been awesome. I'm quite the critic, but I also love a lot of these speakers. So make sure to follow me on Instagram, official Tommy Mello. Make sure to hit the subscribe button.